of these programs. As we get into the top 25 here and who they played, here's our top 25 going into week 5. Let's get it going. Ohio State headed over to Seattle, Washington to take on the Huskies. They win 24-6, a little bit of a slow game. Definitely thought, again, it was disrespectful to only favor the Buckeyes by 8 points. I thought that was a slap in the face. They more than covered there. But it was a little surprising that they didn't score a couple more points. But also, we got to think about it. Washington, going into this game, was undefeated. Now they have been defeated. And we keep moving as Julian Sain gets his first road win as the QB1 for the Buckeyes. The game we unfortunately got wrong. And one of the few here on the top 25 list. Alabama versus Georgia there in Athens. 24-21. We went with the Bulldogs as well, as we just did our in-depth review of that game. If you're just joining us, you can go to the beginning of the stream or look for the clip of it over on YT. 24-21 just came up short. Could have went either way, to be quite honest with you. But Alabama holds on. Kalen DeBoer gets another win over Georgia. Another big one that we went into an in-depth review of, and that was Oregon versus Penn State. The Nittany Lions win it in double overtime, 32-24. Good game. Good game. Sad if you missed it. Don't miss one of these again. I think week 8. I think that's Texas, Georgia. So come hang out with us over there for that watch along. I think the week before that, also, we are doing the Red River rivalry. So we're, again, covering a lot of the big games going on during the season. Indiana headed over to Iowa City to play the Hawkeyes. This was a little surprising of a scoreline, as the Hoosiers wiped the floor last week against Illinois, putting massive numbers on the Fighting Alumni. But don't do it to Iowa, who looks like they have a solid defense. 20-15 was the end result. There was actually a safety to end this game. So if you actually put money on Indiana with, I think it was like minus 6.5 points or 7 on mine, at least the last time I checked and put it in my notes, it was 7.5 points. Well, they didn't cover because of that, which was kind of funny. But yeah, they win. A little bit of a slow game. Kind of not surprised. Again, Iowa's a pretty solid team. You got to give their defense a lot of respect. It was also a close game against Iowa State. It's just the offense kind of get really things going there. I know they put a decent amount of points up against Rutgers, but we're talking about Indiana here, who is a pretty legit team, to be quite honest with you. LSU, Ole Miss. One game I was really surprised to see the lines for, as it was minus 1.5, at least the last time I checked in my notes for this game, in favor of Ole Miss. They more than covered there, 24-19. It's another one that we did a nice little in-depth review of in the beginning of the stream for the 114th Magnolia Bowl there. Ole Miss continues to be undefeated and gets their third SEC win there. Texas A&M hosted Auburn. This was a top 25 matchup. We had quite a few of them here this weekend. I didn't get to see much of this game. I'll probably watch the highlights after this because I really like Auburn. You know, I'm not a huge Hugh Freeze fan, but just like what I've seen from the offseason, I like the storylines around the program. They kind of got robbed last week, to be quite honest with you, against Oklahoma, but it is what it is, right? Here they played a close game against a very good Texas A&M team, and unfortunately, they're going to get put out of our top 25 because of this loss, but they're just right outside. We're not really counting that Oklahoma loss against them too much, and we didn't really do it this past week. That's why they're sitting at 21. And they kind of proved why they should have been in the top 25 still, as it was only 16-10 and A&M not scoring too many points there. So Auburn's defense not as bad as people actually think it is. As we keep moving, Iowa State hosted Arizona there in Ames, and the Cyclones blew out the Wildcats 39-14. Arizona loses their first game there on the road, and Iowa State continues to be undefeated. Another interesting fact, first meeting since 1968. And if I'm not mistaken, Iowa State continues to be undefeated against the Wildcats. The last game to occur this past weekend, BYU versus Colorado. Yes, we have the Provo Cougs in at 11. They have been there for, I think, 3 weeks now. Almost got upsetted, had a little bit of a slow start. We kind of expected a game like this, BYU with a young quarterback, not getting things going. Colorado started off real hot, 14-0. But guess what good teams do? They overcome deficits like that on the road as well. And BYU could have won this game by, I would say, a possession or two more. They just couldn't punch it in there late. But they did get the job done. 24-21. Colorado, though, decent effort. Just maybe a little off. But not expecting much out of the team from Boulder. The upset of the week. Florida State goes down to Charlottesville, Virginia, and lose to the Cavaliers 46-38. Number 13 here at your Sports Outpost. Yeah, we don't have Florida State ranked in the top 10, and you see why. And kind of why also we are kind of getting things right with our top 25. Virginia, they're a solid team. They're just a solid team. Harris, they're at wide receiver. He's been on our highlights for our top 10 plays twice now. Their quarterback, Harris, he's a baller. It's a really like a nice story to see, as the last couple of seasons they have been pretty bad. I think they lost to James Madison there a couple of seasons ago. I think they lost to another non-power team last year as well. But they've been proven us wrong. And I'm happy to see it because they pull off again that upset against Florida State, a team we knew that wasn't legit. We know also that we were expecting the Seminoles, when they play outside of the state of Florida, they're going to lose eventually. That also applies to Miami. You just got to be patient enough for that to actually happen. But yeah, kind of happy to see it, even though we got that one wrong. Missouri hosted UMass. They beat the Minutemen 42-6. Ahmed Hardy. He is probably one of the top 5 running backs there. If you want to see that top 5 running back, tune into a Missouri game. You'll see why. Minus 44.5 point favorites. They almost do it with that 42-6 score line there. Interesting game here. Tennessee heading to Starkville and almost gets upsetted by Mississippi State. This was another game that went to overtime, just like Florida State versus Virginia, Oregon versus Penn State. Quite a few actually here in the top 25 that had to go to some extra time to settle who won and lost. Tennessee was minus 7.5 point favorites, so that was kind of an eyebrow raiser. Even though, again, Mississippi State is undefeated, they beat Arizona State as well. But Tennessee has been pretty solid, but not solid enough. It looks like that secondary got really exposed. We mentioned that for the game last week against UAB, going into, again, the one here in Starkville. It was like, maybe the secondary with the missing pieces that are not healthy is going to be an issue for Tennessee. Obviously, the front end played good enough to allow that defense to help out and win. But 41-34 there, as Tennessee continues to have some decent form there in the SEC. I mean, I still think they can make themselves a case if they continue to win here. They obviously have like Alabama down the line, a couple of other decent teams there in that conference still. But at least, you know, they don't lose to Mississippi State early on in the season. But good for Jeff Lebby. You know, putting up a fight here, undefeated going into this game. If this is the way you get your first loss, Now, I think he might be there for a lot longer than people expect, which is, I think, is going to be a good thing, as I think it was also the first season since 2014 where they went 4-0. So not too bad of a start here in year 2 for Lebby. Vanderbilt hosted Utah State. The Commodores win 55-35 over the Aggies. Vandy, a little bit of a slow start. Nice back and forth there in the first quarter. Going into the second, I think it was like 14-14. But then they pulled away late in that second quarter, and then ultimately in the second half just kept on scoring, and that's why they win 55-35. Also, we saw this when Utah State went over to College Station. They put up again a decent fight against Texas A&M, so very not surprised that they scored 35 points, as they're actually somewhat of a decent team over there in Logan. Another game that went into overtime with a ranked team involved, that was Georgia Tech taking on Wake Forest. They beat the Demon Deacons 30-29. This was an absolute great comeback for the Yellow Jackets. It looked like they were not going to be getting any kind of win whatsoever. They were just struggling there on offense. I think there was also some turnovers as well in this, if I'm not mistaken. But they got the job done, and they continue to be undefeated. A little disappointed because it is Wake Forest. They are not a good team whatsoever. So hopefully this is like a nice reality check that, oh man, like we almost lost it there. As the ACC really looks to not have too many quality teams here again in 2025. Utah headed over to Morgantown and blow out the West Virginia Mountaineers 48-14. The last time I checked the line going into this, it was -12.5 for the Utes. They more than covered against West Virginia there. Yeah, Devin Dampier, or Devon Dampier, however you say his first name or last. He has a nice bounce back week after losing to Texas Tech. And hopefully they continue this, as that defense pretty solid, to be quite honest with you. As again, they win 48-14 on the road. Memphis headed over to Florida Atlantic, taking on the Owls. They win 55-26. They just cracked into the top 25 after the win against Arkansas. And they continue to win here in conference play. I believe they play Tulsa this upcoming weekend. As the final game, and one we got right, I was very happy. I think it was this one? The game between Oregon and Penn State were the two here in our ranked games where we went against the grain of wherever the lines were set, and we got it right. USC headed over to Champaign, Illinois, and played the Illinois Fighting Alumni and lose 34-32. If you didn't know, here on the channel, we like to pick against USC because it's a lot of fun. And I think we're going to continue to do that, even though also we know they're probably going to win some of these other games. But this one, we knew since the offseason, not that they didn't have a chance, but we just knew as well that USC doesn't play good on the road in the Midwest for Big Ten conference games, and this just proves it. I don't know what their actual record is. I know they lost to Maryland, Minnesota, Michigan last year when they had to travel to the middle of the country. They lose another one here in Champaign. I know a couple weeks ago they played Purdue there in Lafayette, Indiana, and won. But here, just could not match it. We knew that USC doesn't really have speed or enough speed to outclass any of these Big Ten teams anymore. Then on top of that, Brett Bielema just setting up his team to win games like this. I got to give him a lot of credit, even though last week got completely obliterated from Indiana. But a nice bounce back win here at home. Actually could have been a lot more points than that 34-32. Illinois fumbled the ball twice there in the red zone. So USC could have been in a lot more trouble than I think people thought. And that's also why we didn't have USC ranked. They just didn't have a quality win. This could have been that. But obviously they come up short and we were right. Love to see it. As that was our top 25. Here again is that 25 teams going into week 5. We'll talk about it